Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update. It is Friday, the 4th of April, and what a day to wake up to after the bloodbath more or less in US last night. We have here S&P 500, but first I have to say that this is I have to underline that this is a for educational purposes only video. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended doing this. It is only to show you how I read the market using technical analysis and my knowledge in behavioral finance. So S&P 500 closed yesterday below 5,400 and below the support here. We can also see it on the weekly chart. We actually closed below the support. We have RSI below 40 threshold on the weekly. It will take a massive buying to lift that. The daily RSI also below 40. There's a little bit divergence, but still we broke below the rising trend line here, and we could be in for lower levels, whether it be today or next week. Maybe there we will see a little bit of bottom fishing, but be careful. Bottom fishing usually goes wrong 11 out of 10 times. So let's see here, pre-market dancing around the 5,400, just below it, has actually dipped a little bit lower pre-market, but there's still a little bit of way to go before we open today. We have the Nasdaq 100, also massive sell-off, more than 5%, 5.5% lower almost. Just above the support here at 18,416, but also here we are in a negative sentiment on the RSI, and there's no divergence on the weekly. There's a little bit on the daily, but we are in a bearish trend and we could drop lower. It is not unlikely that we could drop maybe all the way down to the area around 17,435, 17,000 in this stronger support here. However, around 18,000 we have the 100 weekly moving average coming up, giving some support, and there's a little bit support here around 18,400, just above where we just below where we are at the moment. So let's see, pre-market, not really much change. As we can see, it touched the Nasdaq CFD the future touched the 18,306, the lows here back from September last year. The Dow Jones also got hit 4%, just above support of 4,297, 4,300. Could touch it. Negative sentiment on daily and weekly, indicating lower levels. The Russell 2000, got also smashed. We actually talked about it, could do that, and there's now potential down to 187.5 area. That little support is not the strongest one. We are in a massive downtrend, but again, I think we could see maybe a little bit of bounce today, maybe some bottom fishing coming in, but could also be that market is taking a chance to sell even further. So be careful out there, and be careful with bottom fishing, and try to and think that now will bounce quickly and be back to happy days. There's no sign of that at the moment. European markets also hit really bad. We had the EuroStoxx50 3.6% lower, and a massive sell-off, taking it through two support levels actually, and we are now below the 100 moving average on the daily. There's not much strong support until around 5,000 here pre-market, bouncing a little bit, but there is now risk down to around 5,000. That's a massive sell-off. That's a really a sharp drop. So not much to say on the weekly. Turned around really bad, and 5,000 could be reached here. Could be today. We never know if some panic is still going on, or it will just in the coming week or so slide lower. But if it can move back above the 100 moving average and for 5,143, well, maybe we could get a little bit of a relief rally in. Maybe here we can see pre-market, it is trying to bounce. It actually dipped a little bit lower, 3% lower on DAX. after being rejected. It tried actually to get back above 22,148, but it closed below 21,800. Support next is 21,252 area. Negative sentiment. There is a potential lower, but I think we could maybe try to get back up above 21,800, but we are in a confirmed downtrend. On the FX market, we saw the euro dollar pushing higher, spiking higher, then setting back a little bit. And in the Asian session this morning, it's been fairly calm, but there is potential higher. We have a confirmed bullish trend. Now we can remove this after it get corrected, 38.2 retracement and taking out, and there is potential up to 112.75 short term. Medium term, there are higher levels in place, but we can see that when the week ends, but there is potential higher above 112. So let's see what it takes out. If it takes out 112, well, then we're looking at 114, 115. On the sterling dollar, well, we have we also had a spike up to very close of the upper rising trend line here in this channel pattern. A little bit of a setback, obviously. I think it could maybe slide back a little bit, and then we could have next move higher. We are in a fairly strong uptrend with potential higher also there. Euro sterling also tested the 84.65 resistance overnight here early morning session. Positive sentiment on the RSI could also push higher, and then say they can't all move higher. Yeah, well, it's a timing issue really. So let's see, maybe euro sterling will push higher before sterling dollar, sorry. Dollar yen also lower, went through the key support here at 146.5, very close to the next support at 144.80, 138.2. Projection of this correction here likely to be reached and possibly also lower. And looking at the weekly, well, we can see that it is actually likely to push lower towards 140.25 in the coming weeks. We are in a downtrend. On the euro yen still just trading sideways and not really much to talk about there. Still between 164.20 and 160.70. Aussie yen, well, got hammered also, through minor support at 93.15 and now below 91.80. We talked about yesterday it was likely, and now we are pushing lower towards a 90 level, towards maybe even lower. Just take the 90 level here could drop even lower in the coming weeks. We are in a confirmed downtrend, could push lower there. Sterling yen below the support at 192 could test the rising trend line. If it closes below the cloud here and below the rising trend line, and if RSI closes below 40 threshold, well, then expect lower levels on sterling yen to around 188, possibly lower. Moving on to Aussie dollars, really hard to read, as I said for a long time. It's really hard to read, but seems like 62.20 and the lower part of cloud here around 62.5 is really strong support. Excuse me. If it takes out 62.20.15 here, well, then I think we'll see a sell-off down to around the 61. To the upside, it needs to take out 64. Dollar Canada sold off yesterday, bouncing a little bit, could still dip to the 140 where we have the 200 moving average, maybe even all the way down to around 139.25 where we have a little bit support. Negative sentiment on the RSI, likely lower levels in the coming days and weeks. We have sterling Canada sideways, as we can see. It seems like there's some resistance in this area here, just between the 786 and the 61.8 retracement. Quite bizarre, actually. But we have support here at 183.45 that should be observed. So this range between 186.55 and 183.45 you should observe if you're trading sterling Canada, but it's a very volatile FX pair actually. Swiss franc on the move, euro Swiss lower, trading below the support here at 94.90. It actually dipped below yesterday, but managed to close back above. But then selling has been continuing. What will be key is to watch out for the RSI, if it will close above 60 threshold or not. Will it be rejected or go through? If it does close below, well, then expect lower levels and 94, maybe even all the way down to around 93.5, 93.30. If it can move back above the 95, then maybe we could see a bounce towards the 96. But for now, it seems like we have a confirmed downtrend, more or less. Almost it will be confirmed if RSI moves below 40 threshold. Dollar Swiss continued the sell-off in Asian session, trading around the support here around 85.5. Negative sentiment, no divergence whatsoever, indicating lower levels in the coming days and weeks, and we could see potential down to around 84 area in this where we have some consolidation down here. Really massive sell-off. Do expect a little bit of bounce, but I don't think it will move back above 86.15. The dollar index also got smashed pretty bad yesterday. Dipped below, have bounced a little bit. Can it get back above 102? I doubt it, but even if it does, it wouldn't change the downtrend, with potential down to around 100, where we have some support here in that area. Gold in correction mode yesterday, massive volatility, as you can see, spiked higher, then it collapsed and then bounced. It actually collapsed down to 3,050 and a bit lower, 3,057, where we have some support. We have the 61.8 retracement of that leg up there. Let's see here the next couple of days. That will be the range, 3,168 or 3,054. If it takes out that candle there from yesterday, that will be the direction. If it takes it out to the downside, I will expect a push down to test the 3,000, and that will be key. If it takes out and closes below 3,000, then we are in for a bigger correction, really. But for now, let's see where it ends. It's a little bit up in the air. It's a little bit limbo at the moment. We have the silver that closed yesterday around the support at 31.81, below the rising trend line, now testing the 100 moving average. I think it will push lower towards the 31 level, and these lows here around this level, we have the 40 threshold being broken yesterday, so we are negative sentiment, indicating likely lower levels. And you have to remember that silver is a bit more of an industrial metal than gold is, so that's why it's probably more volatile or sensitive to fluctuations in the overall industries. The copper also pushed below the support here at 483 and could dip down to the 55 moving average coming up here, and the 786 retracement at 468, and then I think we'll see a bounce. What is key also to watch is what will happen with the RSI, currently testing the 40 threshold. Gold, very volatile yesterday, and that is the range it needs to break out of to give us the direction. 3,168 to the upside, then it will push towards 32.50. If it takes out the low that actually tested the support here at 3,057, and the low is 3,054. If it takes out to the downside, expect a push down to test the 3,000 key support level. If we close below that level, then we are definitely in a bear trend, confirmed bearish trend. So that is something to keep an eye on. The silver closed just above the support here at 31.80, but this morning it seems to be selling off further. And have to remember that silver is a little bit more industrial metal than gold is, which is more like a safe haven and investing and jewelry and whatever. Anyway, silver could drop to the 30, 80 level, where we have some support. We have the 200 moving average coming up. We have the cloud support here, and we have these lows over here where market turn around. But we are in a negative sentiment on the RSI, indicating lower levels. The copper future Well, closed below the support at 483 yesterday. When we talked yesterday morning, it actually was bouncing off it, but it closed below, and now there's potential down to 468.5, where we have the 100 moving average and the 786 retracement giving some support. Key towards this also the RSI currently just above the 40 threshold, meaning still in positive sentiment. I think we will see it pushing into negative today. Crude oil also got sold off heavily yesterday. Most of the action actually took place before we talked yesterday. But after being rejected here at the 786 retracement, it dropped to this 786 retracement, which was the correction move up here, and now we're actually below. We could see a test of the lows here at around 65 2022 fairly shortly, I believe. We can also see the 55 moving average has moved below the 100 moving average, so we are in negative sentiment across the board on when we are looking at indicators. Same picture really on Brent crude oil below the 786 retracement. We can remove this one. There is potential now to test the lows here from early March. And the Euro gas, CHF gas, bearish trend, negative sentiment. I think we can see it pushing lower towards 36, 70 area, 36.40 maybe even. So after the breakout here, downside is resuming. The US nat gas just trading sideways, still support here 370. Interest rates also on the move. The US 10-year Treasury yields dipped below 3%, and as we speak, it is just below 4%, dipped into the 390s. There's some support here, but there could be further downside potential. Let's just zoom in a little bit, and we can see where are there some potential support levels. There was this spike here, so maybe 390, and we have more or less reached the potential of this shoulder-like pattern, as illustrated by or indicated by these two arrows here. So let's see if we can bounce a little bit. Maybe we could be building up. At least we should keep an eye on it. Will there be excuse me, some divergence here? Will RSI bounce from the previous lows here at 27? That will also be key to watch. The 2-year continued dropping, dropped yesterday. It's going to be interesting. We could see it dropping even further to 350 here today. We can see the RSI is a little bit extreme, just around 24. So I would expect a bounce fairly soon. Maybe we get down to around 350 before we see a bounce. But if it starts moving back above 366, well, then we can see a further bounce up to 380. On the European yields coming up here, we have the Euro 10-year. The Euro 10-year has bounced, broken below the 265 support, and it could test the 55 moving average coming up here, and the 61.8 retracement at 258. I think it will be tested today, and the RSI testing the 40 threshold. Will it be bouncing off, or will it close below? That will be key. If it closes below, we could see the Euro 10-year dropping even further. Otherwise, I think we'll see it bouncing here going into next week. The UK 10 below 460, 458, where there's now resistance. No strong support until around 445 in this area here. We are now in a bearish trend. You can say we basically have a kind of a double top here. So if we measure that, and we should actually do it from here, and then we can say, okay, pushing this lower and say, okay, this is what we have to play with, and then we have 61.8 retracement just around the support there at 445, and we could see that being tested. Crypto, Bitcoin and Ethereum hasn't really done much. 81,230 to the downside, 88,800 to the upside. That's the range it needs to break out of. Ethereum still above 1755 and below the 2100 and below the falling trend line. It's a little bit early for me, sorry. It will break out eventually. So let's see which way it's going to move. possibly a bounce. I think it seems to be very strong support in this area here around 1750, 55. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day. Talk to you again later.